The stations are in an area near you. So the idea is people who have been impacted by these ministries may be near these stations. If they're going to pick up their kid at All Stars, maybe they're ready to invest in a children's ministry themselves. So they're on their way and they're passing this station where there will be ministers who can help get them signed up and find out more about the ministry. If folks are in the cafe a lot and really find that a compelling part of Church of the Nativity, maybe they're ready to serve in the cafe ministry. There's a station for the cafe ministry right next to the cafe bar. Likewise, host team right here where we're operating. Information desk out by the desk itself. And finally, the floaters are everywhere. Everywhere in between the displays and the stations and worshiping here at Mass and going to get your kids, doing whatever you do here at Nativity. You guys are just everywhere. And that's designed so that people can really interact with one another. Finally, the effort for getting yourself to these areas is pretty high over at the display. You have to really go out of your way to get there. The stations, you may be passing it, so it's a kind of lower effort, but there's absolutely no effort if we approach somebody and extend an invitation into ministry. So that's why these floaters are so important. The most important aspect of this event is the floating staff, because we found that the most effective evangelism tool is personal invitation. And that's to church at large and ministry specifically, when we can invite somebody to just come and see or just try it out. Come along with me and do my ministry with me for a day. That's really simple and very personal, and it works really well. And in fact, that recent survey showed that 2 out of 3 current ministers, you guys, were invited to join your first ministry. That's pretty significant. Some people are just ready to take the step, and they'll take the step no matter what. But 2 out of 3 want to hear that they're needed and that somebody's welcoming them onto the team. Now, this is the part that surprised me. When we asked who invited you, it wasn't friends and it wasn't family. Over 60% of people said they weren't friends yet, but once they joined the ministry, they became friends. 20% were acquaintances that they knew from church and out in the community somewhere, school or teams or anything like that, worked together. But 37%, the highest, most effective invitation extended was just people they recognized from church. That's it. They just have to recognize you. You don't have to know their name. You don't have to be chummy. You don't have to babysit their kids. You just have to be able to recognize them and have them recognize you. People that sit near you in church. People you serve coffee to every single week, or buy the entree all the time, or sign out their kids last every week. You know these people. They're all around. Only 4% were invited by a perfect stranger, so let's try to avoid that. It's just awkward. It's like, come and join ministry. Who are you? Maybe they're brand new. It's their first time, and that might freak them out. So if you've never seen somebody before, maybe you don't want to invite them to be in ministry. So here's the plan. How are we going to do it? This weekend, we're going to all wear green shirts. They don't have to be electric green like this. Any color green will do. That's bright. If you're colorblind like Christopher, you're going to have to ask Kate to find you an Oscar-colored shirt. Any of these bright green colors. Dress like a broccoli, you'll be great. Then we're going to wear these stylish pins, and they will identify us as staff, either at a station or just floating around. And they say, ask me how to get involved. So that's why you're here, so that you know the answer when they ask you how to get involved. If they ask you a question you don't know the answer to, you can tell them to go over to a station, and there will be staff there who can help with real specific questions. But this is just a way that people know that you want them to be involved. Finally, the floating staff is just going to come as you normally do. Come when you worship. That's where you're going to recognize people. We don't want you coming to, all the masses, because you may not recognize somebody at all the masses. But where you're worshiping, where you're working, if you're scheduled for ministry this week, or if you tend to work at a certain mass, come to that mass, because you'll recognize people there. And when you're around in fellowship, just pick up your head and look around. Who do you know? Who might be willing to take this next step? Have an awareness of your neighbors and kind of push outside of your circle, and then walk across the room. That's the hard part. Just walk across the room, introduce yourself. In the past 4 issues of the newsletter, we've been giving you some challenges to get you thinking about this. And the first one was to look around for people you see all the time, but you don't know them, and find out their name. And if you didn't do that, that's okay, because you'll still see a lot of the same people this weekend, and you can ask them what their name is. Look for people you know. Then, if you can, point out something that they're good at, or something that you've recognized them doing all the time. Hey, you drink a lot of coffee. Why don't you serve coffee? Gosh, you just seem to know a lot of people and interact with a lot of people. Would you think about joining the host team? Why don't you come and give it a try? Or, boy, you're a know-it-all. Why don't you join us at the info desk? Whatever it is that you recognize that they do well, point that out, because they want to know that they're going to succeed on the team where they are just trying it out. And then, if you can, if it comes up in the conversation, why are you involved? Oh gosh, I can't do it because I got 2 little kids. Well, actually, I have 2 little kids, or somebody else on the team has 2 little kids, and this is how they work it out. Or share a little bit about your experience in the ministry. How come it works for you? Why do you keep doing it? And then finally, just let them know it's just a trial run. First serve is just coming one time. That's pretty low commitment. Of course, we'll invite them afterwards to come a second time, but leave that to the ministry staff. You're just trying to get them to come and try it out and make that a comfortable experience for them. All of the people wearing pins are going to be carrying registration cards, and an example of that is in your bag. Also, your pin is in the bag. So if you don't mind, pull out that registration card. I'll show you how to fill it out. You're going to be carrying these. You have one there, but we're going to have about 10,000 in backstage. So you can get some more here, or, if it's really working out terrifically, you can take 10 or 12 or 15. First, you're just going to have them fill out their name, their contact information, email, phone number. Tell us if they're an adult or a teenager, because students can participate in First Serve. And it just marks what grade in high school they are, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then let them choose which ministry they'd like to try out. If it's one, if it's all 8, there should be 8. There are 9 on there. Sorry. Pastoral ministry is not a weekend ministry, and they seem to have enough people right now. So it's actually not an option that we're advertising. But if somebody checks it off, we'll take care of that later. No problem. But there are all the options for the First Serve ministries. Check 1 or up to 9. And teenagers are actually, I don't want to say allowed. They're encouraged to do a few of these ministries, not all of them. We don't generally have teenagers directing traffic on the parking lot. But just let them check whatever they want to check. And then they're going to come to a student impact orientation with Christopher and his team, and they'll sort that out there. They'll help place them in a ministry where they're going to excel. So they can choose whatever they want on the registration card, and we'll work on placement with the teenagers later. But for adults, then we're going to route these cards to the proper ministries. Finally, there's a little calendar down the bottom about which days they'd like to first serve. We really want them to start thinking specifically and get in here during April. They'll be excited about it when you invite them. So let's try to get them in as soon as possible. The 12th is white just because that's Easter. Yes, they can first serve on Easter. We just want them to know that that's Easter, and maybe they have brunch plans or something. Actually, all of these ministries are weekend ministries, but sometimes there are opportunities during the week, so if they're only available during the week, we can try to accommodate that too. So we're trying to make this as easy as pie.